I'm the CEO of Safepoint, and my presentation today really is on the pretty broad topic of safety, with some insights into safety, specifically in the visitor economy. Just to give you a little intro about Safepoint, who we are and what we do, as Tim said, we started at a startup competition back in 2017, and since then it's really grown from strength to strength. What we do is we solve the big problem of staff safety and well-being, as well as business regulatory compliance, having all of these lone workers out in the field. And we do that with a web, mobile and hardware tool that really protects staff that work on their own and ticks all those compliance boxes. So when Tim emailed to ask me if I'd talk on the topic of safety in the visitor economy, initially, I'll be honest, I Googled the visitor economy to see what the actual definition of that is. Because at Safepoint, we're an industry agnostic platform. We see and learn all of these new sector descriptors every single day. And this was one where I wasn't entirely sure what was included in the kind of umbrella of visitor economy. And after having a little dig around, I found this picture here, which really brilliantly explained it. And well, for me, really broke down all of the sectors that are in there. And it's great to see that at Safepoint, we already support a lot of these businesses that are very much focused in the visitor economy, whether that's protecting business travelers themselves. So we protect staff that travel from places like the UK to the Middle East and even Sri Lanka and things like that, all the way through to people that manage properties and contractors maintaining and building this visitor infrastructure. So it was great to see that we were already very much working with all of these businesses. And that kind of took me on to the question of, what should I talk about? We're working with these businesses. I could go through all the kind of regulations for loan working, but that's always a little bit dry. I could run a demo of Safepoint, but that's all a bit salesy. But what I settled on was some simple yet insightful facts around working alone and staying safe in the visitor economy, in the hope that it makes you interested enough in the topic to really look into it more yourself and see how you can protect your staff more, or even just grab a coffee or want to hop on a call with me and continue that conversation. So that takes me through to the poll, the quiz. The link is in chat, and if you can go onto slido.com and join here, and I can actually see how many people, a lot of people, cool. 26 people, so I'll drop that link in there again, just so everyone's got it. That's there if you want to sign up. I'll have to fly through it, given we've only got 15 minutes or 10 minutes, so I'll jump forward. So yeah, this is an attempt to make safety a little bit more engaging. It's not always the most exciting topic to discuss, but hopefully this will give you some kind of eye-opening insight into just some of the scary and interesting facts around safety and loan working in the visitor economy. So to start, we've just got a test question, just so you guys can all see what is actually going on. You can have 20 seconds to answer the question. Multiple choice, so you don't have to be super clued in. Pick the answer you think is right. This is a test question. Thanks, what? I understand, and I think I'm on the roll call, which I hope that's not everyone here if they stay to this point. Cool. And then I can pop out, see who's voted what, and everyone, pretty much the majority got the right answer, which is good to see. So if we jump onto the first actual question of this quiz, how many lone workers are there in the UK? This is just people working alone, doing anything on their own really. And this is pre-COVID-19, because that is, as you can imagine, really changed the numbers. So we've got 4 million, 8 million, 14 million or 23 million. And this is people that any part of their day are working alone. Let's see what we got. So we're looking at closely between 8 million and 14 million. Well, I can tell you the correct answer actually is 6 to 8 million. So most of you got the right answer there. And that's nearer now around 8 million loan workers currently in the UK. So over 20% of the entire UK workforce are defined as by the Health and Safety Executive. All their guidelines are defined as lone workers. And when you think about lone working, it really does touch almost every industry. When it comes to the visitor economy, you can see it in property, whether you're managing a hotel or an Airbnb, you've got all your late night staff, cleaning, hotel staff, any security, and that's not even touching things like transportation when you're looking at taxis, even to train drivers. So loan working and looking after your loan working stuff is a really, really big thing for the visitor economy. And we can't also forget that a large portion of the visitors are actually loan working business staff themselves. So popping on to the next question, how often do you think a violent incident occurred at work in 2017-18? There we go. 1 violent incident every 10 seconds, 1 a minute, 1 an hour, or 1 a day. Let's see what we got. So we've got most people, the majority of people seem to think a violent incident occurred at work once every hour. So I can tell you the correct answer is actually 1 violent incident a minute, pretty much. 694,000 incidents of violence at work in 2017-18. It actually comes out to 1.3 violent incidents every minute for the year. And here's some breakdown of kind of the sectors where it hit the most. On the left here, you can see anyone in protective service occupations, obviously like security and things like that, are at the highest risk, which is what you would think. There was 83,000 incidents, which is 12% of the figures. On the right, you can see health and social care workers weren't too far away from security, 35,000 incidents, which is 5% of the total figures. And in the middle there, it's just an average across all industries, and that's around 1.4%. And that's still 10,000 violent incidents at work, which is a significant number. And it's not just it's not just the accidents we need to pay attention to in the workplace, but it's also the people that we're working with, even members of the public. And this is, again, especially important for the visitor economy, where individuals are very likely to be working with members of the public that are far from home, or kind of anybody that's traveling, and that kind of puts you at a bit more risk because you're more often than not more alone when you're traveling. So moving on to the next question, which industry do you think the highest rate of workplace fatalities? Let's just turn that question on. Construction, manufacturing, agriculture, or transportation? All right, let's see what we got. So we've got agriculture at 40% and construction closely followed. Well, I can tell you that's actually pretty spot on. With the correct answer here, the correct answer is agriculture. And here's the graph for that for 2018-19. Agriculture did have the highest rate of workplace fatalities at 32, very closely followed by construction. You can see here. So 2018-19 figures are in the dark green, and then the annual average since 2014-15 is in light green. So when you average it all out, construction has actually got the highest rate of fatalities, which most people seem to get that agriculture and construction are pretty dangerous fields to be in. But it is worth noting that category containing accommodation and food still had 18 fatalities. And this always shocks me as a really high number for an area that you kind of think is relatively safe. And it's also really interesting to track these statistics over different periods of time. So we actually found a year where there were the same amount of fatalities in services industries as there were in construction, which was 31 fatalities in one of the years, which is real eye-opener to kind of let you know that, wow, just because I'm doing a role that I don't necessarily think is particularly dangerous, these accidents really can happen to anybody. And moving on from these incidents, how many years of work were lost in the UK due to these work-related injuries within these incidents in 2016, 2017? Was it 150 years of work, 2,000 years of work, 6,500 years of work, or 15,000 years of work lost due to work-related injuries? So between 6,500 or 2,000. Well, I can tell you that the correct answer is actually 15,000. So there were 15,000 years of work lost in 2016-17. That's actually 5.5 million days of work, which for a fun fact is the same amount of people that actually live in Finland. So it's the equivalent of every single person in Finland taking a day off. That's how many work-related injuries, or how many years and days were lost due to work-related injuries, which is just absolutely massive. And as we can see from the results there, when you actually put it in figures, you're slightly mind blown. So moving on to the last question here, which age group do you think is most at risk to being involved in a workplace fatality? So I'm not going to read all these categories out because there's a whole bunch of them, but 16 all the way through to 65 plus, who is most at risk to having one of these workplace fatalities? So 16 to 19 or 20 to 24 got pretty much the majority of the vote there. So this is actually my favorite question in any of these quizzes that I do, because the correct answer is actually, doesn't even show on the screen down here, because it's 65 plus, and nobody even voted for it, which is brilliant, because that's an insight that definitely nobody knew. So if I go back to the presentation, here's the graph of workplace fatalities by age. And this is the rate of fatal injuries per 100,000 workers by age. And as you can see, the most at-risk group are anyone over the age of 65. They're actually 4 times more likely to be involved in a workplace fatality than the all-age average that you can see at the bottom. And there really is a clear trend of more workplace fatalities as employees get older, which often goes against what people think. Like I said, every time I give this presentation, the majority of people think younger categories are more likely to be involved in a fatal accident, whereas that's simply not the case. I haven't got the graph in the presentation now, but I can tell you when it comes to reported accidents, it's kind of a bit of a peak in the middle. So around 35 to 44 have the most reported accidents, but when it actually comes to these incidents and accidents becoming fatalities, it's the older categories that are way ahead of any of the younger categories. So that is the end of the quiz. We can actually, I think, have a look to see if we've got a winner. Adrian Melrose, you won. Congratulations. But going back to the presentation,
thank you.
We've got how do these fatalities occur? So I read through. You can read online. The Health and Safety Executive publish a lot of these fatalities, and some of them are really terrible stories to read. And I went through a whole bunch of them to kind of get the gist of how these incidents were happening. And I've just got 3 here just to give you an example. First one was a worker was killed when he fell from a ladder. He was found on the ground with a ladder beside him. Second one, worker crushed and killed by a tree branch. He was found trapped beneath the tree branch. And the third one, an employee was working on a filtration unit, and it's thought that he fell into the water and he was found face down in the water. Now, one thing I found reading through a lot of these is there's something that the majority of them really do have in common. And that's the fact that they were all found. I did shorten the summaries of those incidents because they're pretty lengthy descriptions, but in most cases, it's quite clear that a lot of these fatalities are, for the most part, people that were working alone. Avoidable fatalities if you knew the incident had happened. Now, normally here, I go on to discuss compliance and what businesses can do to protect their staff and all the regulations and things like that. But because this is quite a short presentation, I'm simply going to tell you how we use tech at Safepoint to fix that problem. And this is exactly the kind of problem we're working to solve. So we provide a safety system that provides automatic alarming, allowing you to meet all of your compliance requirements, but more importantly, instantly increase the safety of your staff. There's a really quick video clip here, but just to give you a gist of what we do, we have mobile apps and hardware that mean if something goes wrong, someone hasn't said, okay, I'm safe. You say you've got, I don't know, a cleaner in a building late at night, they let you know when they've done that job and when they're fine. And if they're not fine, an alarm's trigger, you know about it. That's really the very core of what we do at Safepoint. I've summarized that in just 6 points, just to close off the presentation with, but these are the main benefits that we provide when it comes to safety. And that's the fact that you really don't have to think about deploying safety much. You shouldn't have to. You can, sign up and get going in minutes. And that's the big thing we've worked towards, is making safety so simple. The fact that you can see the real-time staff location of everyone you work with out in the field. So, if something goes wrong, you know exactly where they are. One huge one that people often overlook with safety tools is increased worker confidence. If you're working with the public, or you're a security guard, or like I said, the cleaner going into rooms, knowing that someone's there watching out for you if something does go wrong is a massive confidence booster. The fact we have automated alarms and things like that removes all of that human error and allows you to respond immediately to incidents. And then, of course, you've got that full safety audit trail. So if you need to do your RID or reports, or send anything off to the health and safety executive or your management or whatever, all that information is there. But the huge core one for the business is, of course, instant compliance. So that is everything I've got for you today. Hopefully the quiz at the beginning was insightful and highlighted some of the things you didn't already know about safety, and kind of give you some thoughts on how you could potentially increase safety within your business. I hope that the very brief demo of Safepoint there has shown that there is tech out there that makes this easier. It makes it easier to give your staff that confidence boost, tick those regulatory boxes, and just keep on top of any incidents that may happen in your business. My contact details are on screen, so if you want to chat further, feel free to drop me an email or connect with me on LinkedIn.